Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of your Earth and Environmental Science course. Today, we're going to be jumping into our actual setup for our lessons. So, before you came to this video, you should have downloaded your notes for the day, and all the information you need for the day is linked in that one place in your Canvas course. So, you should have clicked on today, which is August 19th. And you should have read the order of events that you need to do today in order to get all of your work done. So if you've made it this far, you should have checked in via Zoom and downloaded your notes to your Google Drive. Now your notes are guided notes. They'll follow along with this presentation. So your job is to watch this video and delete the blank spaces in your notes and fill them in with the appropriate words. So your job is just to watch, pause, take it in, and take your notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So our first unit is actually going to be astronomy, which will start tomorrow. But before we get into that, we need to talk about just kind of an overview of what Earth science is and what the breakdown of Earth science will be. So what are the things that we're going to be learning about in this course? So first, let's talk about Earth versus environmental science. Now, you might hear those things and think that they're the same thing, but there's actually a distinction. So Earth science is how Earth naturally functions. So we're looking at, plate tectonics, the weather, natural phenomenon. Whereas environmental science studies the human impact on the way that Earth naturally functions. So when we say Earth science, we just mean basically nature by itself. And when we talk about environmental science, we talk about how humans interact with nature. For the most part in this course, you guys will be learning about the actual nature itself. So we're going to be dealing with the majority of Earth science until we get into our final units when we start talking about environmental science. So there are particular spheres of Earth science. This includes the geosphere, and the subject for the geosphere would be geologist or geology. So geologists would study geology and they would study the geosphere. Another sphere is the atmosphere. The subject that falls within studying the atmosphere is meteorology. Then we have the hydrosphere. If we break down the STEM word hydro means water. So the subject of study for the hydrosphere is oceanography. So if you're an oceanographer, you study the oceans and you study water. And then finally, the biosphere. The subject is ecology. So you study the way that living organisms interact with their non-living counterparts. And I'm going to give you the definition for each of these spheres, but I'm just giving you kind of a general overview right now. And then finally, we have space, which is Earth's place in the universe, and this is referred to as astronomy. So the subject of astronomy studies Earth's place in the universe, and astronomy will be our intro unit. So let's define the different branches. So Earth science is any area of science that deals with the composition, structure, and the occurrences of Earth. So wind patterns, wave patterns, weather, plate tectonics, that falls under Earth science. Geology, specifically, is the study of nature, formation, origin, and the development of Earth's crust and its layers. So when we talk about geology, we're going to be focusing on rocks and plate tectonics. Oceanography is the study of the biology, the chemical composition, and the structure of the oceans. That one's pretty easy because oceanography, ocean is in the word. Meteorology, you guys probably already know that meteorology has to do with the study of Earth's atmosphere or the weather. Whenever you watch the news, pretty much every 15 minutes or so, they'll have a meteorologist come on and check in and explain kind of what the weather is going to be like for the week. And it's their job to study atmospheric patterns so they can predict what the weather is going to be like. So you know whether or not you need to grab an umbrella when you run out the door in the morning. And then finally, astronomy is the study of outer space. So if you're an astronomist, you study the planets and the stars and outer space. The hydrosphere. So the hydrosphere is important because it includes all of the water found on Earth. And water continuously moves throughout the hydrosphere. So it's in a cyclical form. And we will talk about this more when we get to water, but I bet you guys have seen the water cycle already in middle school. So it moves in the cyclical form. You have precipitation, which then goes into the oceans, and you have your evaporation, which then forms the clouds, and then it goes in a repeating pattern. About 97% of Earth's water is actually salt water, so our oceans do cover the majority of our Earth, and that water is salt water. It contains salt. And then 3% of our water on Earth comes from groundwater, glaciers, streams, rivers, lakes, etc. So that would be our fresh water. The atmosphere, when we talk about the atmosphere, that's going to include all of the gases that surround Earth. These provide animals and plants with gases that they need for life, and it protects us from the sun's heat and radiation. So if you think about it, there's one major gas that's located in the atmosphere that we need. If we didn't have it, we would die. Can you think about what that is? It's oxygen, right? Because without oxygen, we would not be able to breathe and we would not be able to live on Earth. Life on Earth has evolved to breathe oxygen, and it is a part of the atmosphere, and it's a necessary part for life to flourish here. The geosphere. So the geosphere contains the core, the mantle, and the crust of the Earth. And again, we will go deeper into each of these as we come up in these units. This is just a general overview. But the crust of our Earth is the outer edge, and it doesn't have the same composition and thickness throughout. So in certain places it can be a little bit thicker, and other places it can be thinner. But the crust is what we stand on. So if you were to pause this video and get up and go to your kitchen to get some water or something, you would be walking, well, you're walking on your floor in your home, but your home sits on the Earth's crust. So if you were to walk outside and be standing in your grass or your driveway or anything like that, you would be standing on top of the Earth's crust. The mantle is just below the crust, and this contains some of the molten, which means melted, material, and can flow while other areas of Earth cannot. So the mantle is liquid, right? So it's fluid, it can move, and that's going to be important when we talk about plate tectonics. And then finally we have our core at the very center of the universe, and this contains the heavy, dense materials of the Earth. So there is an outer core that's liquid and an inner core that's solid because of the pressure of the Earth. But we just say the core is the middle of the Earth. And then our biosphere. If we break down biosphere, bio is a prefix that means life. So if we talk about the biosphere, this is pertaining to all the living things on Earth. So it extends from the ocean floor to the atmosphere. Reactions with the environment help animals and plants maintain and alter their physical environment. So the biosphere is where we see all of Earth's spheres interacting with each other constantly. So when I say biosphere, what I mean is the entire planet. Okay, so our biosphere is planet Earth. It's the geosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, all the spheres coming together, working together, create our one biosphere, which we call home. And then just to reiterate, Earth versus environmental science. Earth science is the study of the actual natural processes, and then environmental science is dealing with the human interactions with the environment. So these can be negative or they can be positive. So some negative impacts that humans have on our environment are pollution, deforestation, habitat destruction, so that we can build, malls and apartments and houses. But then some positive impacts that we do have reforestation projects where we will replant forests after we've either knocked them down or they've been destroyed by wildfires. So recently there have been wildfires in California that have destroyed a good bit of the forestry out there, and there are programs in place to help replant those forests. We also have endangered species lists. So when a species gets to be endangered, so their numbers get too low, we will put them on the endangered species list and we will make it illegal to hunt them, etc., to help kind of bolster their numbers. So we can have positive impacts, but we can also have negative impacts as well. And that is the end of your introduction to earth science. So tomorrow we're going to jump into astronomy, but for the rest of the day, your job is to go back into Canvas. First of all, make sure your notes are filled in. They should be filled in if you've gotten to the end of the video. Then go back into Canvas and find your branches of earth science assignment. Again, it's all linked in the same page for today. Complete that assignment. Turn the URL into Canvas. So make sure you're submitting it in Canvas. Do not share it to my email. Submit the URL in Canvas like I showed you guys to do yesterday. And then go ahead and download your interactive notebook and start your vocab, which is your homework. If you can get all that done, you'll be in great shape for today. I'll be on Zoom if you have any questions, but just get to work and yeah, have fun doing it. I will see you guys tomorrow.